Hello, bonjour. Welcome to the first Brazilian Week CCBC Online Festival, a digital event organized by the Chamber of Commerce Brasil-Canadá, also known as CCBC, in partnership with the Brazilian Embassy in Ottawa, the Brazilian consulates in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, and with the sponsored by Air Canada. The festival presents more than 20 webinars covering 3 content areas: business opportunities, innovation, and Brazilian culture. Besides, the Brazilian Week website offers free access to more than 200 cultural contents. My name is Paulo de Castro Reis. I'm the Executive Director of CCBC, and I will have the pleasure to moderate this panel about Brazil-Canada economic and technological relations. I would like to start this session inviting the Brazilian ambassador in Canada, Pedro Borio, for his opening remarks. It's important to point out that Ambassador Pedro is a great partner of CCBC and have been working together with us to set up this great festival. Welcome, Pedro.
Boa tarde, Paulo. Good afternoon. Bonjour à tous. It's a real pleasure for me, and a special pleasure today to be part of this panel and to not only commemorate the festival itself. It was a lot of work to put this festival together, and we have very high ambitions, and we have the bad habit of getting these ambitions to become a reality. And today is a particular example of that, of these ambitions that we have, because we managed what in the beginning seemed almost impossible, to get together 2 super eminent personalities from Canada and from Brazil that we were dreaming of having meet in Brazil and meet in Canada. And this at this time of pandemics, we have to settle for a virtual meeting. And also, I'm very happy to mention the presence of Elise Racicot from the Canadian Consulate here with us. But our guests today are Ted Hewitt, who is I always refer as a Canadian encyclopedia of Brazil-Canada relations. It's hard to risk talking about Canada-Brazil when Ted is around, because I run the possibility of being corrected or made more precise by Ted's remarkable memory. Ted has been head of the delegation of Canada to the Joint Committee on Science and Technology. He is the president of the Social Sciences and Humanitarian Research Council of Canada. He has been a great leader of the Brazilianist movement in Canada, is very well known for that. He has already also extensive experience in the United States, and in sum has been visiting professor of Brazilian studies. So he's I would say, an essential part of the Brazil-Canada science and technology and economic relations, and certainly a very welcome participant today. Professor Evaldo Vilela is, I think, the closest counterpart we can have in Brazil to the role that Hewitt has now in Canada, and also in terms of experience. Professor Vilela is now the president of the Brazilian National Science and Technology Research Council, CNPQ, but much more than that. He's a truly global man with experience in Japan, experience in the United States, experience in Germany, and he brings an extraordinarily important track record of having been Secretary of State in one of the key central Brazilian states, Minas Gerais, and also being the leader of the National Council of Secretaries of Science and Technology. So he, more than most people, he has a very wide view of what's going on in Brazil, not only because of his current position, but his experience also in the local level of government and in dealing with all his colleagues, the other state secretaries that I know have him in the highest possible respect. So I believe that I'm going to try to be short. We'll mention a few points of the Brazil-Canada relations, especially for those who are not that familiar. And if Paulo, if you could have the slides, I'll try to be brief because I hope you will have more time to listen to our guests who have much more to say. Can I go ahead with the slides now? Can we move to the first plate, the Brazil bilateral relations one? I'm having a bit of a problem here, so if you could give me some feedback.
I'm gonna try to have someone else sharing the slides. Just a second, please.
Yeah, for some reason I cannot do it. Sorry about that. Technology playing its tricks. Well, that is the part that you already know. So this is a extremely brief reminder that a lot of people do not know. It's how far we go. I mean, Canada opened a first office in Brazil in 1866, trade mission. Shortly after that, the Emperor, Dom Pedro II, visited Canada and visited Canada extensively. As you might know, Dom Pedro was an extremely curious man, so he visited not only attractions like Niagara, but he made a point of going to Toronto, of meeting intellectuals, going to other towns. So this, I think, highlights a little bit how far we go. Next year, we will commemorate 80 years of the embassy in Ottawa, which is no small thing. And shortly after that, Canada also opened embassy in Rio. We have 3 consulates in Canada, very active in different regions. It's such a huge country, and each one of these consulates has a particular kind of vitality because the cities have their very clear different personalities, and I'm glad to say that all of them are very exciting places for future development of Brazil-Canada relations. Certain provinces like Quebec have relations closer to some states in Brazil, like it's the case of my state of Paraná. I'm sure Professor Vilela and Ted will talk about other links. There are a lot of activities happening like in other places like Toronto, which is a key place in the world now in innovation. Vancouver is a city of great change where the Brazilian presence is growing. So to make it very short, it's very good that we are all over Canada. We would like to be even more present. And also that Canada has the consulates in São Paulo, Rio, and the trade offices in Belo Horizonte, Recife, in Porto Alegre, which makes us certainly different from most other embassies. I mean, a few countries have a similar presence by Brazil, like United States, where we also have an extensive network, China, Argentina, not many other. Can we go to the next plate, please? The trade relations, as you can see by the numbers, is quite an important flow. We are in the range of more than 5 billion trade. I think it could be much bigger. We have hopes it will be, but in any case, both countries figure high in each other's list of trade partners. And I'm absolutely convinced there's a lot of room for that to grow. And we'll mention it a little bit more when we speak about investments. But please note that we are not talking just about like primary products. Yes, we are still talking about primary products, but we have also products like airplanes and medicines, mainly imported by Brazil, but they are in the trade list, and that's something that certainly can grow both ways. So we could go to the next one, please. Regarding investment, that is a particular point of importance because it's not an uneven relation. The fact that Brazil is also a prominent investor in Canada makes the equation totally different from a lot of countries, even in our region, and from other relations that Brazil has with important partners around the world. I would even call the attention of all of you to the fact that the Brazilian investments in Canada are actually much bigger than what you see in the third line of this plate. The 17 billion is the Brazilian investment registered as such, but we know that there are other investments controlled by Brazilian companies coming through third countries or for fiscal reasons or for investment reasons. So we believe that the Brazilian investment stock in Canada is probably closer to 30 billion. It's a very high number and representative of the vitality of the investment process. We also are by far the largest investor from Latin America and Canada, and we have this presence of ultra important funds from Canada. I would stress that most of them are public funds, which add an additional responsibility to the managers, of course, and to us also as receptors of these investments. But one point that I would like to mention is that we have been witnessing a clear tendency towards diversification of the investments, meaning if one looks at the history, we will see that for many years, the investments were concentrated in a couple of infrastructure activities, mainly electricity and transportation, through the famous pioneer Light and Power Company. But later, there was a movement towards real estate, shopping malls, and the diversification at that point was already in movement. And recently, we have seen a clear propensity, or at least receptiveness from the Canadian side, to consider much bolder and innovative investments, like in new sources of energy, in states where they have never invested before, apart from keeping the investment and the modernization in traditional sectors like mining, where Canada also brings not only the money, but brings interesting practices like the participation of women, environmental care, and other. The companies mentioned also in this plate show the relevance of the players from Brazil and from Canada in both countries. So investment itself could be a point of discussion for days, but I just wanted to raise this couple of comments. Thank you. So we could go to the next one, please. Next one shows good things and some problems. Good things is that we have many agreements and arrangements between different centers, and some problems because I have to confess, and Ted, I think, can comment on that, and Professor Vilela much more than me. It's quite hard for us to track what really is happening because it's so diverse, all sorts of relations that we have. One of my colleagues commented that every time he traveled in Canada, to each province he went, he discovered something else that the embassy didn't even know existed, like some kind of arrangement, memorandum of cooperation. It's a good sign because it's a sign of decentralization, but it's also a challenge for us to try to have a more broad understanding of what is being done and what can be done and which ways we should point. I think our guests can say much more about that. The number of students in Canada has been amazingly high. We have this data from 2017, 12,000 students in Canada speaks for itself. Brazil is an important source income for Canada schools, and also I believe a very important human input. We know also that this is linked to some immigration, either permanent or temporary movements, should be a point of importance. The Science Without Borders program had a high number of Brazilians in Canada, and I would like to also to stress a figure that is not in this plate, which is the number of students coming for shorter periods to Canada, mainly to learn languages and to do exchanges, which reach 160,000 students in one single year. So this is an aspect that obviously has been totally disturbed by the pandemic, but we should keep in mind again. And finally, I would like very much to hear comments from our guests about the Joint Committee on Science and Technology and the potential for us to develop further. So basically, as I said, I try to keep my comments short because I think they have much more to say, and I hope this could give you just a few points to think about and realize the magnitude of the possibilities ahead of us. Thank you very, very much. And again, I'm very grateful to Ted Hewitt and to Evaldo Vilela for being with us today. Today is an exciting day. Later on, we are going to have also Minister Bento Albuquerque of Mines and Minister Rogério Marinho of Regional Development. So I think it's a historic day for Canada-Brazil relations. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Pedro. It was very interesting. And after the ambassador, now I would like to call Elise Racicot, Canadian Consul and Senior Trade Commissioner here in Brazil. Welcome, Elise.
Thank you, Paulo. A pleasure to be here. Bonjour à tout le monde et bem-vindo e bem-vindas a todos aqui. It's such an honor to be sharing a panel with such guests as the ones that we have today. So I'll try to do as Ambassador Borio did and try to keep my comments short. And actually some of the comments that I had are corroboration to what the ambassador just said. So I'll try to speed up a little bit into some of those statistics. I thought statistics are important to researcher and establishing things on facts. So I had all of them here, but I think we don't need to go through that again. I think one thing that I'd like to say about the overall bilateral trade and investment relationship, maybe to start with, is how important the people-to-people ties are to this part existing and growing. What I mean by that, and Ambassador Borio touched a little bit on that with the students, but I think generally speaking also with the number of tourists that come from one country to another, the mobility of researchers, academics, the mobility of students, of course, but also of workers, and business people, I should add, this really contributes to building the type of ties and relationships that are needed for a bilateral trade and a bilateral investment relationship to grow. And I'd even go further and say that, yes, we've had for a really long time now an important relationship in terms of trade and investment, but also we see an increasing number of companies either investing or doing business between our two countries that tend to be innovative and technology driven. So a little bit like Ambassador was saying, that there's this shift in terms of diversification of the sectors, and even in the traditional sectors, like mining, for instance, what we see is an increasing number of companies collaborating on solutions that are related to clean technology, Internet of Things, sensors, nanotechnology. So basically, this is all part of growing together and growing our relationships. In fact, when we look at the bilateral trade stats, I think that they're just the tip of the iceberg in a way. I believe there's a lot more business happening between our two countries than when we look at the official stats because of many reasons. One of them is that many Canadian companies who do business in Brazil end up doing so through a joint venture or locally establishing themselves and becoming in a way also a Brazilian company. So we can see that when you look at that composition, that fabric of companies that are doing business here, a lot more are in things like ICT, so technologies around communication and information. FinTech as well is growing, but also in things like aerospace and technology related to advanced manufacturing, and a wide range of other technology-driven sectors where we see an increasing number of small and medium-sized companies as well. And I think this is true on the other way around as well. We see an increasing number of Brazilian companies also looking at how to use, you know, the ambassador was mentioning Toronto, Montreal, how to use those ecosystems and these innovation hubs to do joint research, applied research for innovation and commercialization of that innovation in Canada, and use it as a way to enter global markets. So along the last few years, I've been really happy to observe that there's been an increasing number of Brazilian companies in those same type of fields. So artificial intelligence, for instance, in life science, in pharmaceuticals, in a variety of technology-driven sector, innovative companies choosing to also have a presence in Canada. So I think this is something also that's not necessarily reflected in the statistics, but that's really important to the relationship. So talking a little bit more about the people-to-people ties, I think that without those people links, there cannot be real science, technology, and innovation relations. And in a way, I think someone like Ted Hewitt is the proof of that, having a long-lasting relationship between Canada and Brazil has made it possible for many others to join in. And in fact, I think this is a really important part, because when people try to solve together problems or issues, especially in the world that we live today, where there's an increasing complexity to some of the challenges that we face collectively, I think we need to find ways to understand each other, to know each other, and this is really important. If we want to be able to discuss those new ideas and develop innovation that can solve those complex problems, we need to meet, and it's maybe a little bit difficult during this pandemic, as we were saying before we started, to build new relationships through Zoom or other virtual tools, but we know that this continues to happen, and we're really glad to see that. The latest stats I have from IRCC figures, and those I will share because they're a little bit higher than what the ambassador had, are from 2019. There were 14,560 study permits for Brazilian students in Canada, which is an increase of 5.7% compared to the previous year. So growing steadily. But if we also consider all those shorter term studies, including language studies and corporate training and other types of internships that are less than 6 months, we estimate over 40,000 Brazilian students coming to Canada and choosing Canada as their study destination. In fact, Canada, according to BELTA, which is the Brazilian Association of Educational Agents, they just released their report about a week ago for the last year, and Canada is again the #1 destination for Brazilian international students now for 15 years in a row. So 15 years of this flow of people going in and out of Canada and Brazil and creating those links is definitely going to be contributing to building those innovation relations as well, and the academic relations. Finally, an increasing number of Canadian cities and communities are also coming to Brazil on recruitment missions for skilled temporary workers, including in areas like games, ITC, communication, AI, a lot of different technology-based aerospace as well, and healthcare. This flow of workers getting to know the Canadian ecosystem and coming back to Brazil with this experience also contributes to the overall trade, investment, and science, technology, innovation relations. When we look at the overall number of Brazilians who visited Canada last year, that was 188,000. So more than a few planes. So definitely a number that's important, and that contributes to that getting to know each other process that allows, I think, for ideas to flow and for people to come together and develop new ideas together. Though the current situation still does not allow for a full return to normal at the moment in terms of tourism and education sectors, direct flights have started again last week. So Paulo was mentioning that one of the sponsor of this event this week is Air Canada, but we were really glad last week to finally see some flights again, which is a sign that we're going back to maybe hopefully a more normal situation in the future. So we have hope that soon the public health situation will allow for the recovery of this important sector that contributes to our overall relationship by bringing our two people closer together. And talking about public health, in maybe this is something that Professor Vilela and Ted will be mentioning, but in my experience over the last 10 years working on Brazil files, this is one area where I've seen, in fact, a lot of relationships in terms of research and academia. So something that we share both countries, not only as Ambassador said, we're both big countries with a lot of primary resources and diverse people, but we also have a public system that has similarities and that has provided opportunities to work together. Just to conclude, I'd like to mention that on our STI, on our science, technology, innovation relationship, we have a positive relationship, and it's a key consideration to bring our innovators closer together, creating long-lasting and impactful ties. And in fact, 2020, with all the other issues that it brought to us, actually marks a good moment in our relationship, because it's the 10th anniversary of our framework agreement for cooperation in science, technology, innovation. So this important two-way collaboration involves industrial research cooperation between our two countries under what we call the Canada International Innovation Program, or CIIP. We have with 5 selected partnering countries this program, and I saw, I think, in the list of participants today that we have someone from NRCIRAP. I think Rhonda is here, which is really someone really involved in this relationship. But we're glad to see this program foster and support collaborative industrial research and development projects. So there's a really positive academic relation between our two countries, but it's important, we believe, to also have private sector involved. And so this is a great way to do that. CIIP is a funding program offered by Global Affairs Canada and delivered in collaboration with the National Research Council of Canada Industrial Research Assistance Program. Every year, we do have a joint call for proposals between NRCIRAP and Brazilian partner, right now the São Paulo State Funding Agency. This year, 5 projects have been selected in areas where there are many synergies. That includes life science, ICT, and technologies applicable to the forestry sector. Our team here, the team I work with, the trade commissioners, organize R&D partnering mission on a regular basis in high potential sector, with the objective to identify the right company to work with and to develop that innovation together. And this year we're planning on having such a mission around smart mining, actually, in November. So where we're going to explore solutions in artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and automation with application in mining. So if your company is interested, please make sure to apply and not to miss this opportunity. Finally, and I'm trying to speed up because I really want to hear our 2 main speakers. I'll just mention that we have recent agreements that are active as well. On July 22nd of this year, following an official visit to Brazil in May 2019, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada Science and Technology branch concluded a memorandum of understanding with Embrapa. So another area where we can see a formal cooperation between our 2 governments in terms of science, technology, and innovation. We also just recently saw an agreement between MITAX and the Paraná State Funding Agency, the Fundação Araucária. So talking about Paraná once more, the 3-year MOU will provide for the exchange of undergrad, grad, and postdoctoral fellows to carry out joint academic research and industrial research internships to strengthen the collaboration between the state of Paraná and Canada. This is about 150 students that will be doing research internships in both countries. So contributing once more to creating those links. Brazil is the largest beneficiary also of Canada's Emerging Leaders of the America program in Latin America, with grants awarded to Brazilians for short-term study and research in Canada. The Canada-Brazil Awards Joint Research Project is also the first scholarship program created in the context of the Memorandum of Understanding on Academic Mobility and Scientific Cooperation that we signed 10 years ago between our department and the Federal Agency for Support and Evaluation of Graduate Education, or CAPES. So discussions are underway to renew this agreement, which has just expired, but this is something that has also contributed strongly to that. So I'll conclude here, but I say overall we have a really good relationship that's been built for quite some time, but there is potential to grow even further, and that's what I'm hoping that we can see based on our areas of common interest. So thanks again for having me.
Okay, thank you very much, Elise. There was a lot of content per minute, and we're very glad to hear your impressions here. When talking about Brazil-Canada relations, we usually focus on trade and investments. But as we've heard, these relationships involve much more than that. Brazil and Canada have been working together and establishing strategic partnerships involving various projects and sectors throughout the years. And now we might have the chance to get to know much more about it. I'd like to call Ted Hewitt, President of the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada and co-chair of the Canada-Brazil Joint Science, Technological and Innovation Committee. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you, Paulo. It's great to be here. Boa tarde a todos. Bonjour, collègues. I also want to thank Ambassador Borio for contacting me to participate in this, because I think it is a fantastic opportunity to interact. I don't want to go over what's already been said by the ambassador and by my colleague from Government of Canada. But I want to mention a few things that relate more to the person-to-person interactions, because as was pointed out, that directly relates to collaboration in science and technology and other areas of research. As was mentioned, I am the president of SSHRC. I will be speaking on behalf of the other councils today. I'm co-chair of the Brazil-Canada Joint Committee, and I want to talk a bit about that. I'm also a member of the board of the sister organization for CCBC, that is the Brazil-Canada Chamber in Toronto, and I published a fair bit on Brazilian trade and investment and the movement of people to this point. So I have a 3-page presentation just to sort of guide me through, if this is hopefully going to work. And again, where things have been mentioned, I don't want to repeat them, and I really do want to stimulate some questions and some interaction as we go forward. So the overarching or the guiding organism for S&T collaboration in Canada, as was mentioned, is the Canada-Brazil S&T Joint Committee, which was formed in 2011, as was pointed out, following up on the framework agreement. It has representation from government, from private sector, from academia, from both countries. It's met a couple of times a year since 2011. It has had a number of foci on startups, information and communications, technology, AI, mining, nanotech over the years. Currently, lots of discussion again about startups around AI, mining in particular. We primarily see our role as creating connections among various players, universities, companies, promoting mobility of students, providing funding. We already heard about the CIIP program and the important role it plays in supporting business, academic, and in terms of relationships and research. And I would say a third role of the committee has also been to remove barriers. And one of the issues we talked about early on was the visa issue, which has thankfully been resolved, or certainly very much improved over the last little while. So I want to talk about working together and how we work together in a couple of ways currently in research. And one is by focusing on training, because I think that's the key people-to-people element, and people forget. If you're talking about research, it's always about people and always about students. We heard about the Ciências Sem Fronteiras program, 7,000 plus students moving from Brazil to Canada in the space of 3 or 4 years. Just an amazing program. I think the number that was offered around at any given time, about 14,000 Brazilian students in Canada at various levels. My information from Languages Canada suggests there are about 20,000 Brazilian students in Canada every year. That number is probably growing. Then there are certainly students who are sponsored through CNPQ or through CAPES that we'll hear from my colleague from CNPQ probably a little bit about. And we already heard about the Emerging Leading in the Americas program, the Canada-Brazil Awards. I'd mentioned MyTax in that regard. One thing I'd point out about this, and we talked about opportunity and where we need to go, a lot of this movement is pretty much one way, you would have divined, and there's very little movement, unfortunately, of Canadian students to Brazil. And if we're talking about areas for opportunity, that's one that we certainly do need to pay attention to. And there's lots, certainly in terms of research that's being done right across Brazil that would be of interest to Brazilian students, and where there is interaction occurring that we really need to think about promoting. Last couple of slides, sorry, there are 4, I guess. I might have exaggerated or short estimated here. In working together on the research and development side, in terms of the platforms, very strong, very significant. Canada and Brazil are major players in scientific production. Canada is ranked 7th globally, Brazil ranked 13th. Canada is Brazil's 7th largest collaborator in academic research, so we do work together quite a lot. 87 institutions in both countries that are involved, which is very important. I'd also mention in this regard the relatively large number of Brazilian expats, academics who are working in Canadian universities. My university, my home university, University of Western Ontario, we have nearly 20 in dentistry, in health sciences, occupational health, and engineering. So these folks play a very critical role in building bridges across the 2 countries. And it's them who primarily are the ones who activate funding through programs such as ELAP, Emerging Leading in the Americas, and others, and MyTax to bring students from Brazil. So very, very important. And last slide, I just want to talk about some of the vehicles that we're currently using on both sides to promote research, interchange in research and innovation. CIIP was mentioned. The biggest one is really the second one, the federal, state, provincial funding agencies, CNPQ, SSHRC, NSERC, CIHR in Canada, MyTax to some extent. Provincial organizations in Canada, FRQ, state organizations in Brazil like FAPESP, FAPERJ, FAPEMIG, super important in this regard. And just to give you some context, one study we did recently showed that these agencies in Canada funded about $20 million worth of joint research with Brazil in previous 5 years. That's not really very much. It sounds like a big number, but that's just a little over 4 million a year. And collectively, the Canadian agencies control well over $3.5 billion, nearly $4 billion in funding. So lots of room there. We collaborate as well with Brazilian agencies through the Global Research Council, through the Transatlantic Platform. There is some industrial R&D that's ongoing. For example, we know Valley has a research center in Canada near Toronto. Lots of Canadian researchers are involved with Petrobras in Brazil and so forth. So there's some industry R&D, and that helps. It's certainly promoted through CIIP and other means, and even the funding councils. But I think that's an area we could look at. And then finally, as was mentioned, government-to-government programming in defense, agriculture, was really pleased to hear about the links with Embrapa, excellent partner in Brazil in health. And I'm sorry, I already mentioned industries shouldn't be on that list. But these are all areas, as was said, are very important for future work. There is, some measure of interaction that's occurring, but certainly lots to build on, and particularly through some of the recent funding opportunities that have been developed in Canada and their policies in order to promote and sustain interaction in ways that are very friendly, which I can talk about in a bit. For example, in Canada, within some agencies and some of the new funding opportunities like our New Frontiers in Research program, applicants from other countries in Canada are eligible for funding so long as they co-apply with Canadians, and that money can be transferred. So for example, a project between a professor at UNASP, even with an industry partner, a professor at the University of Alberta can apply to the New Frontiers program. They can both be funded, and that funding can be sent from Canada to Brazil to support that. Of course, with the expectation and the hope that Brazilian agencies would also contribute to these projects. So I'm happy to talk about that or any other aspect of our research collaboration, but I thought I would start with that overview. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Ted. Thank you very much. And now I would like to call Professor Evaldo Vilela, the president of CNPQ, the National Council of Scientific and Technological Development in Brazil. Welcome, Professor Evaldo.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to be with you. As we can see, as Ted has shown, Brazil and Canada has a lot work been doing from the last 10 years at least, with the good programs. So CNPQ is very keen in help to join us in good programs. I'm here as president of CNPQ now for 4 months, so I'm quite new here. I was in Minas Gerais state as the FAPEMIG, as Ted has said, and in Minas Gerais, as we are state mining state, we have a lot of collaboration with Canada. I think I have, okay. We have aspects on CNPQ actions, first of all. What I can say that CNPQ...
O Joesley pediu para avisar o senhor que o documento já foi encaminhado para a CEGOP.
Tá bom, obrigado. CNPQ supports mainly basic research. We are the first, the main funding federal agency in Brazil that has maintained a close relationship directly with the researchers. It's very important because we promote basic research, but we promote also steps to have these basic research results in the knowledge chain that could guarantee innovation and development. So from now on, we think that Brazil will suffer next year with its economy. So we actions to involve our groups, the main groups we have in the sites in Brazil, good group teams of research, to involve them with global challenges. Global challenges will be an opportunity to make part of international networks that will deliver good results, so we can keep these good, our best streams on research alive from next year at least. So we hope after that we are going to recover our budgets. As you know, Brazil is a very producer of iron ore, as Canada do the same. We produce food, we export agri-foods, beef and chickens, and we have a large market of cosmetics, cellular phone, and also good market for books and music. So we are, as Canada, we are good, important, we play a very important role in the trade. From the point of view of the environment, science and technology, environment in Brazil, we have a new step forwards with a new legal framework for science and technology. It's quite new in Brazil, and it's very promising because universities now and private companies are more comfortable to be more close and to work together. It's the only way you can promote innovation. And also we're very happy that we have this new law approved. So it allows universities and research institutes to share the use of their laboratories and teams with companies for research purpose. This gives us more opportunities for international collaboration. Our system, bureaucratic system, also less, it's better now, less bureaucratic. So we can improve important products for science and technology research. And also a good thing is that we have now possibilities of the companies maintain intellectual property. We overthrow this big problem in our system. Now intellectual property is very, very, very good indeed. We have a lot of expectation for innovation, science and technology with Canada, because we know that the Canadian economy is forecast for expand. So Brazil is not that so good, but we hope in a few years we can do the same. So Canadian exports will seek new opportunities in Latin America, which is very good. And the Canadian focus on innovation, science and technology certainly will help us to improve our collaboration, our cooperation. We have to learn in some way how to do innovation in great scale. See, we have very good cases of innovation in Brazil with startups, based technology startups. We're not doing very bad, but the problem is the chain, how to go from basic research to the market. And you know that Canada has overcome this problem, have a better system, and then we can learn together. We can learn from you how to do that. And the mechanisms, the way how to improve innovation. And as was said here, publications is very important. Brazil is a quite good country if you consider publications, papers. We do very well. But for innovations, it's a big gap, still a big gap. We don't know how much to do it. So it's a matter of collaboration. Brazil depends a lot of cooperation all over its history, from immigration, from the last years, in terms of collaboration with many countries, learning how to do things. So international collaboration for science and technology, Brazil is very important. Just one case, very good, successful case was CNPQ Valley Emitters, where we have an agreement in 2017. We sent 10 postdoctoral fellows, went to Canada, and was very successful. This is kind of program we can improve. Send people, good doctorates you have here, sent to Canada to learn more about the possibilities of professional evolution in terms more innovation, how to implement innovation based on technology, based on science. Another thing that we have to consider, as I said, we are good partners in terms of publications. Brazil and Canada has a good tradition in publishing together. It's very important. So we have very good groups together. We have to improve them, to promote them, to do more than publications, do publications, very important, the publications. We have nothing against the publication, the papers. I myself, I made a lot of papers. It's very important in terms of the academia, but we have to go further. And how to go further is not easy. It depends on learn some strategies how to do that. And collaboration, international cooperation is good for that. As was said here, Science Without Borders was a good program. We had many Brazilians in Canada in different levels, from graduation to full PhDs. So in Toronto is a very important center for science and technology from the Brazilian point of view, and involved many institutions, many cities in Canada in this program. Was very good in that sense. Another important thing I would like to stress is our National Institute for Science and Technologies is the main program in science and technology in Brazil nowadays from CNPQ. They produce basic research and they promote innovation. They have links with the companies. As you can see, they were involved in the Zika disease. Now they are involved in the COVID disease. They are involved in the vaccine production, a new vaccine in Brazil. At least 2 of these national science and technology institutions are involved. And we have these national institutes in food production, in environment needs. It's about 120 of these national science and technology institutes. And they have already links with Canadian universities. As you can see from this list, it's a lot of collaborations going on. It's amazing when we stop to think about our collaboration. It's amazing how many collaborations it's going on. I myself, I was surprised today to see how many things we have been doing together. It's a matter just not to stop. We have to carry on, because the results of things that we can carry on, it's the important things we can have. And challenges, common challenges for us, for our countries, is oil and gas, mining, forests, agriculture, livestock. See, we have so many possibilities of collaboration. In social sciences, for instance, I would like to stress this point, because we are looking for involvement of social science and humanities, also in the innovation projects financed by CNPQ. We think innovation is not just a matter of technology. We have to involve more sociology, anthropology, all these science to see the impact of technology and how to have the best results from this new world. We have already many collaboration with these agencies, Canadian agencies. Some was only MOUs, so we had not money to carry on with some of these MOUs. But it happens in Brazil sometimes. The flux of money is stopped from time to time, which is not good for the collaboration. We have already signed some possibilities of collaboration, but we lack the money to do that. In Minas Gerais, I had a good, myself, and FAPEMIG, we had good collaboration with the Canada Innovation. And we start some works on improvement and expand definitely a lot of business and technological partnerships and the acquisition of new technologies. And we have a Brazilians work for them, this guy, Leonardo Mendes, and was very good to work with him and with the Canada Innovation to help entrepreneurs in Minas Gerais to start new business. So the message I'm bringing here is that to promote science, which is very important, but also we'll have the collaboration with Canada in the ways we can have better results for our society in terms of new products, new services and process out of our technology, out of our papers. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll be here for any questions you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Evaldo. It was very interesting also. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. The session is, no problem. Everything was very interesting. I would also like to include, to consider this session as just as a teaser, as an invitation for another event where we can dedicate proper time to explore all the potential of this relationship in terms of science, technology, and innovation. I think there's a lot of synergy between Canada and Brazil, as we've seen from what was spoken today. And I'm positive that this is just, as I said, a teaser, the start of a very rich conversation. And I'm sure that the ambassador will partner with us to prepare an event specifically to go on with this discussion with the proper timing. So with these words, I would like to thank all our presenters, Ambassador Pedro Borio, Elise Racicot, Consul and Senior Trade Commissioner in Brazil, Ted Hewitt, and Professor Evaldo for this interesting and stimulating and inspiring presentations, so that we can get motivated to go on with these discussions in the near future. I would also like to remember that in 15 minutes, we have another session starting with the Brazilian Minister of Mines and Energy, plus other guests, other speakers, to talk about Brazilian opportunities for investment. It's a very interesting session, and you can use the same link that you use to connect to this session here. You can use the same link to connect in the other sessions. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup à tous et à toutes. And I hope you get connected for this next session with the minister. And after that, we will have other sessions with another minister and also other interesting contents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Obrigado, Paulo.
Thank you.
Okay.
Prazer.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Professor Evaldo. And let's start conspiring to have a full day just of science and technology.
Exatamente.
Okay.
And
Você, Elise.
Ted, when you come to Ottawa, some caipirinhas.
Caipirinha? Okay, now I'm in. I'm in.
Everyone.
Okay, obrigado, colegas.
Bye.
Yeah,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.